欢迎收看《台湾抉择》，我是陈子妍。今天的权威访谈，我们再次的请到了胡佛的研究员，而且是胡佛这个智库美国重要智库的中国事务专家的后起之秀祁凯立博士，欢迎您。
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
As we talk about in the past, the DPP has been using the anti-China card, 反中牌, quite successfully. And I don't expect DPP will change playing his strong hand. So you think this time will still working for DPP?
I don't know, but I suspect it will work less well than it has in the past. And part of the reason is that it's very clear what Beijing's attitude is towards the DPP. Beijing does not trust the DPP. I think they have a pathological suspicion of the DPP. And so if the next president is also a DPP member, I think I'm confident in predicting that we'll see more of the same. So a continuation of trends from the last 8 years. Whereas in 2016 and 2020, voters in Taiwan had a strong incentive actually to push back against coercion and threats from Beijing. This time around, I've gotten the sense in my visits to Taiwan that there's a different sort of attitude, or at least there's less concern about the threats that Beijing poses, and maybe more interest in economic engagement again. And there's another undercurrent where the DPP traditionally makes the case that they're the party that can safeguard Taiwan's sovereignty and security the best. This time around, the KMT is making a play to try to convince voters that voting for them is actually a path to peace and to stability in the cross-strait relations. And I think in this election, I sense that Taiwan voters actually are more interested in that message this time around than they have been in the past. And so that's one reason I think the polls are showing a much closer election.
Yeah. And how do you think Beijing is handling this case? Is more mature in a way, or more sophisticated?
I think they've gotten a little more sophisticated over the years. They're not doing military exercises, and they're not firing missiles to try to intimidate voters to vote in a certain way. I think finally they've learned that sort of activity usually backfires, and the candidate they don't want to win benefits from that activity. So they've generally been quieter. They have still, though, manipulated they've used some of the tools or levers that they have in their toolkit to try to influence how Taiwanese voters think about this election. So,
like ECFA.
The ECFA is the most obvious example. They announced an investigation of unfair trading practices by the Taiwan government. And they said that the deadline for wrapping that investigation up would be January 12th. Well, the election is January 13th, so it's not subtle at all, right? Yeah. So I think it's pretty clear to Taiwan voters that if they vote for the DPP, then they will see a continuation of the use of economic coercion against Taiwan. And if they vote for the KMT, you might not. You might actually get a reversal, or at least a shift in direction of Beijing's policies. And that's the message they want Taiwan voters to receive in this election.
Okay, let's take a break. 让我们休息一下。欢迎回来，我们继续跟祁凯立博士来谈2024的台湾大选。From all the polls are showing that this is a very tight race, and And from your vantage point, because in the past, you've been watching this election very closely. Even you lead a team to go to Taiwan and coming back, have the after election, post-election conferences analysis. So this time, because it's so tight, do you foresee any twist and turn, before the actual election day?
Well, it's quite possible. I mean, we've seen that in past elections where there's been surprises in the last 10 or 20 days before an election. And the most memorable was the assassination attempt against Chen Shui-bian in 2004.
So the 2颗子弹.
Yes, right, exactly. So I hope and pray that we don't see another kind of shocking event like that in the run-up to the election. But it's unpredictable for a reason. These elections are not foreordained. Voters have a choice right up until the last minute, and it's possible that something could happen that affects how large parts of the electorate think about this election.
So from you sounds like this is pretty much a done deal, for the it's been the Lai Ching-te versus Hou You-yi, and the Ko-wen-je is not going to be close in this.
Yeah, I wouldn't completely write Ko-wen-je out of the picture either. I think he's very much down in the polls from where he was a month ago, but it's not impossible that something shocking could happen where one of the other candidates loses a lot of support. Anytime you're in a 3-candidate race and only one candidate can win, there's a strong incentive to vote strategically. And the strong incentive is to abandon the 3rd-place candidate and vote for the 2nd-place candidate if you don't like the 1st-place candidate.
So the
气保效应, right? And so in this case, it's still plausible that Ko-wen-je could come back up and appear like he's actually in 2nd rather than in 3rd, and then you might see a mass defection to him over Hou You-yi, for instance. Or if more implausible, but not completely out of the realm of possibility, if Lai Ching-te were to have a scandal, say, or some other event that makes him look really damaged and he starts to fall down, you could see people abandon him and vote for one of the other two. So I think anytime you have a 3-way race where all 3 candidates are clearly competitive, are clearly possible winners in this election, you could see a lot of volatility even right up until election day.
So what's your take about the outcome? I'm putting you in a very, very tough situation.
You mean predicting who's going to win?
Yeah.
I think it's too early to say, actually. I know that's a cop-out answer, but I think there are countervailing trends here. So on the one hand, the DPP has been in power 8 years, and voters generally are kind of tired of the DPP. If you look at support for Tsai Ing-wen, support for DPP government, support for just a right track, wrong track, is the country going in the right direction. All of those numbers are down a lot from where you would like them to be if you're the incumbent party asking voters to give you a 3rd term. Right, and so there's some danger signs flashing for the DPP. On the other hand, Lai Ching-te has been ahead in every poll over the entire year, and so even though he's not
shrinking.
Yeah, but he's still. I haven't seen a single poll where he's actually behind Hou You-yi, and so it's not obvious to me that Ho has the last little bit he needs to make up that he'll actually get there, and so I think a lot is going to come down to the last 3 weeks here before the election and how the campaigns rally their support base and how they appeal to independent swing voters.
Okay, thank you for your analysis. 谢谢凯利博士给我们做的这个选前的最靠近这个选前的一个分析。我们下周四再见。Thank you for coming.
Thanks for